Tonight on Elon Local News.
On the record, I sat down with President Book to talk COVID and her hopes and plans for the year ahead.
Reunited and ready, students in Alamance County return to in-person learning.
And opening doors, new facilities now open to students across campus. An inside look ahead.
All that and more.
Elon Local News starts now.
Live from the Jane and Brian Williams studio at Elon University School of Communications.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for the first Elon Local News of the academic year. I'm Baylor Rothman.
And I'm Ashlyn DeLoey. Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine is now fully approved by the Food and Drug Administration. The decision replaces the emergency use authorization the FDA granted the vaccine last December. It comes 1 week after the CDC's recommendation for booster shots of both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. Moderna and Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine have yet to be fully approved, but it is expected in the near future.
And I sat down with President Book this week discussing the impact of COVID-19 on campus, the rising concern of the Delta variant, and why the decision to require the vaccine for students but not faculty. Take a look.
Students live congregately, right? So we're a residential campus. Another college president said, you know, college campuses are like cruise ships on land. So, I mean, that's part of why for decades that vaccines have been required for college students. So our faculty and staff come in and out of that setting, but they're not living in that setting. So I do think there is a different standard in play for vaccines for students versus faculty and staff. That said, we are looking at that closely about whether or not faculty and staff should be required to have the vaccine. And if we make that determination they should, it would be very similar to the student rollout in that you'd have exemption in the same way for religious or medical reasons. So it's not something off the table.
What was it, just the congregating factor for students? I mean, there are some faculty and staff who do live here on campus.
And the high compliance rate that we're seeing voluntarily is part of it too. You know,
how much higher was that than students from the fall? I mean, I'm sorry, from last spring.
So I think we are, I'd have to look, the email from John Dooley that comes out tomorrow will detail it.
Okay.
But we have really good compliance with faculty and staff as well. I haven't felt, we're monitoring it. So these are conversations that are going on. So it just hasn't reached a decision point that I felt we needed to trigger it yet.
So talk to me a little bit about the 10-day mask mandate. What was the science sort of based to do that for 10 days? Is it just an example of safety theater, or what was the thought behind that?
We decided as a campus that we wanted to mask up, and particularly because we have so many people coming right now to campus from all over, and it's an intense period, right? Move in and students meeting each other for the first time and exploring facilities, and we want to be able to have as healthy of a start as possible. We'll probably take it in 2-week intervals, so we'll check in again on Wednesday before the 29th on the conditions that are on our campus and in our surrounding area and make a call.
To potentially extend?
Yes, if we need to extend or do anything additional. And I personally am not anticipating that.
Booster shots, is that something that Elon is preparing for, to have vaccine clinics on campus for those booster shots if they become available for those?
Yes, we anticipate Pfizer's already talking and modeling that when that will occur. So we should all have in our head, just like the flu, that this vaccine is going to come with a booster schedule. And we already had flu clinics. You know, that's a regular at Elon, so we will very, very likely be adding COVID clinics.
Okay. President Book and I talked on a variety of topics, including getting freshmen better engaged on campus, parent involvement in the community, and goals for the year ahead. You can watch the full sit-down exclusive on our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
Even though the majority of students and faculty at Elon are fully vaccinated, university physician Dr. Jeanette Archinal says the Delta variant could still pose threats to campus health, and what makes Delta different is that it is much more contagious. She says there's only so much looking ahead and planning that can be done.
when you're responding to something that you have no control over, like a virus, a pandemic, you have to change day by day. If you don't change frequently, if you're not flexible, then you're missing something. You're either being too restrictive or cavalier with people's health.
Archinal says policy changes should be expected, but they won't be as frequent since Elon knows more now about the pandemic than at this time last year.
Anybody who thinks that everything's going to be exactly the same every week, this semester, next semester, they're fooling themselves. Because the virus will do what the virus does, and we have no control over that.
Archinal's biggest advice is to be aware of what is going on in the community outside of students' quote, personal bubbles.
Comedian, speaker, and university trustee Janine Robinson died Saturday at the age of 77. She and her husband Jerry, who died in June, were active supporters of Elon Athletics, funding renovations to Alumni Gym in 2010 and the track and field complex that is named in their honor. And they also supported the development of Schar Center. Robinson served as a university trustee for the past 18 years and received the Elon Medallion in 2017.
Alamance students walked off the buses and into their classrooms today, some for the first time in nearly 2 years. But protocols inside the classroom will look a little different this year. I looked into what changes students and parents can expect. Alamance Burlington school system finally opened its doors today to all its students and staff. Across the state, local school boards set their own mask policies, and earlier this month, ABSS voted to require everyone ages 5 and older to wear masks in their schools, regardless of vaccination status. ABSS Superintendent Bruce Benson says the mandate follows recommendations of the CDC, the State Health Department, and the North Carolina Schools Public Health Toolkit.
With as many health organizations recommending masking for students in school, I don't know how you could not decide to have students and staff be masked.
Nearly 23,000 Alamance Burlington students will return to in-person learning 5 days a week. Bus and school cafeteria schedules will also resume, but visitors will remain limited. Alamance Board of Education Chair Allison Gant says the school system will continue to monitor local cases.
We understand that some people disagree with our decision, but we believe that putting a child in a school building in the most safe environment so that they can grow and learn, and keeping them in the classroom as much as possible is critical to their learning. The mask mandate comes as a result of the Delta variant. Alamance County is considered a high transmission area with a 10% positivity rate. Keisha Butler, a 3rd grade teacher at Grove Park Elementary School, says she is excited to reconnect with her students face to face, but is also preparing for academic or emotional challenges that may lie ahead.
We all went through a traumatic experience when it came to COVID. I don't believe if anyone says that they knew that was coming, I would be surprised. And the ones that were affected the most were our students. So we have to be very mindful of their mental health.
Families who want their students to participate in a full virtual learning model can use a new virtual academy created by the district. ABSS says their next step is to figure out the best way to track vaccinations throughout the rest of the school year.
Dancing to the top. Coming up, a look at Elon Dance Team's winning routine.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
They said I couldn't dream. Called me a piece of trash and swore that's all I'd ever be. Said a bottle couldn't see the ocean. Give up. Go back to the dumpster. But I didn't listen. I made my way. And now, I am what I've always wanted to be.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
You're watching Elon Local News.
The U.S. is continuing to evacuate Americans as conditions in Afghanistan worsen following the Taliban's takeover of the nation. Chaos continues at Kabul airport following a series of shootings, and some groups are calling upon President Joe Biden to extend the August 31st deadline for withdrawal. Tonight, I spoke with Assistant Professor of Journalism at Elon, Alex Lexinger, who reported in Afghanistan in 2011 and served as a Marine in Iraq. Take a look.
As a journalist and as someone who was there on the ground, what was your immediate reaction to everything that's going on?
I mean, honestly, I flipped on TV, I saw the pictures coming out of the Kabul airport, and I just thought it was an utter disaster. You know, I didn't realize that there were basically no plans in place whatsoever. Yes, there was a plan to get out of Afghanistan, but it was a hasty sort of withdrawal that could have been done better when people were jumping out of the building in 9/11. It was like it almost, in some sick, weird way, bookended that experience.
Mm-hmm. So could you sense, during your reporting on the ground, though, that, that the Taliban was ready for an opportunity like this, or that, we keep hearing, well, the withdrawal was inevitable, but do you think that what has occurred while trying to withdraw was truly inevitable?
Yeah, so I was there in 2011, and the writing was on the wall then, 10 years ago. The Taliban had made serious inroads into southern Afghanistan, which is Helmand province. It's kind of the wild, wild west. A lot of people don't know about it. There had been some major offensives there. But I was talking to children on the ground there that hadn't been to school in 6 or 7 years. So the Taliban had shut down their schools. Women who were not allowed out of the house anymore once they hit a certain age, around 12 or 13 years old. So it was very clear to me that the Taliban had made serious grounds. They were extorting the farmers to say basically, like, you're not going to grow wheat or whatever crop you're growing here. You're growing opium, and you're going to pay us, money. I mean, it was very mafia-esque.
Mm-hmm. The U.S. has 8 days now to evacuate thousands from Afghanistan. It doesn't seem to really know how many Americans are still there. Do you know anyone who is still there from your talks who's trying to get out, or what are your impressions of that as we're just 8 days to that August 31st deadline?
I think it's a pipe dream. I don't know anyone personally there right now, but I think though the real problem is not being talked about is there were 2,400 troops on the ground there before this. Now there's almost triple that amount that have gone back and I just read earlier that they're going into the city of Kabul. And the city of Kabul, for those that don't know, was a pretty secure area for the most part. So they're leaving the airport, going into places that they don't know the lay of the land. So they're walking into a very precarious situation. And I would say that, one drop of blood spilled by American forces having to do this is unconscionable. given the nature of how this was done. It's just a total failure on the government's part to withdraw this way. This has global implications. You know, how are other countries going to look at America now? I mean, how do you do business with someone who went back on the ultimate word? I think Afghanistan's going to be plunged back into turmoil, probably under very strict Islamic law, that it's clear that the people don't want there, especially women and children.
Well, as we approach the 20th anniversary of September 11th, the timing is very devastating for sure. All right, well, Professor Lexinger, thank you so much for joining us. And as the situation continues to unfold, we'd certainly love to have you back and talk about it.
Again, that was Elon Professor Alex Lexinger.
With us now is our sports director, Jacob Kismore, who's here to update us on what's already happened in sports this week and what's to come.
Jacob, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Baylor and Ashland. It's been a good start for Elon Athletics so far. Both soccer teams and the dance team are already seeing success this fall. Dance team earned a gold bid at a National Dance Alliance summer camp last weekend, which concluded the team's preseason. The gold bid allows them to travel to their national competition this spring. The bid covers a majority of the expenses for the competition, and this year marked the first one earned in the program's history. Let's take a look at part of their winning routine. Senior dance team member Shannon Treacy says the accomplishment hasn't sunk in yet.
When we were driving home, I kind of turned around in my van and I was like, do you guys realize like what actually happened? Like we just got the first gold bid for Elon Dance. Like it's just so hard to grasp and it's so surreal and I couldn't be more proud.
The dance team is set to perform at Elon's home opener football game against Wofford on September 4th. The women's soccer team defeated George Washington 2-0 in their first game. Elon Jr. Molly Mahoney placed forward and scored her first collegiate goal during the first half, which was also the game winner for the defending CAA champions.
Being the conference champions and having it said out loud is probably the coolest thing ever for us. The feeling's just, that ecstatic feeling of just being champions is so great for us, and I think it's a booster because that's our standard now. Our standard is to, you know, be champions, and we're looking to do that again this season.
The women's team is set to play Virginia Tech away this Thursday. This week's edition of The Pendulum is the fall sports preview, and you can pick up a copy this Wednesday to read more about the dance team, women's soccer, and upcoming events. Those stories and more are also available on our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
Jacob Kismore, thank you so much.
The new school year comes with some changes to campus in the historic and east neighborhoods, and of course the Mosley Student Center. Our Ellis Chandler has more.
From El Centro to a new outdoor fitness court, new offices and areas around campus are now open to the Elon community. University architect Brad Moore says he is most excited about the upstairs Mosley renovations, since the end result was even better than he imagined.
It's just a very cool, very interesting project, and I think students will really enjoy hanging out there and getting more involved in the student organizations that are represented there.
Upstairs Mosley is home to a number of campus organizations like Student Involvement and the Creed. The summer renovations allow for a more user-friendly layout, complete with new meeting rooms and common spaces. Other improved facilities on campus include what Moore called a, quote, facelift in El Centro, where there are now new seating areas and improvements to the kitchen. Moore says the most challenging part this summer was the Smith Hall renovations. While all of the dorms in Historic have been on the renovations list for the past 3 years, Moore says Smith was the most comprehensive yet.
I think with Smith, we really got very close to hitting our tipping point of how much scope we can cram into 2 short months.
The renovations in Smith were not fully completed until hours before freshmen move-in late last week. Moore says the project took so long because of material delays and a labor shortage due to the pandemic. Ellis Chandler, Elon Local News.
Moore says final touches will be finished later on in the semester, and residents will be notified if construction resumes while they're here on campus.
Satis.
Will temperatures continue to rise during the first week of classes? Stay tuned for your Phoenix 5-day forecast.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Doesn't see race. Love is love.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education, what are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else? Or will you dare do something different? Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills. The smarts. Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget. That'd be cool. Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
Bye-bye.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help.
You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home.
I blew on him.
Move-in weekend brought over 1,600 of Elon's newest students to campus. Looking at the class of 2025, they arrived from 43 states and 25 countries. North Carolina, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Virginia are some of the most commonly represented states. The class is made up of 59% women and 41% men, which is similar to last year's ratio. The university saw an increase in the number of first-generation college students, where the class of 2025 has 33% more first-generation college students than the previous class. Vice President of Enrollment Greg Zeiser credits this to Elon's recent membership to the Common Application and the test optional policy. He says it makes Elon more accessible to students. To read more on the newest class, visit elonnewsnetwork.com.
For a look at the weather ahead, it is a scorcher out there now. We go live to Chloe Franklin on Citron Plaza for our Phoenix 5-day forecast. Chloe, good evening.
Thanks, Baylor. I'm outside on Citron Plaza, and it is a hot and sunny day today with temperatures at a high of 92 degrees and a low of 71. Today on campus, I've seen so many students taking advantage of this great weather, but make sure to be careful and be prepared because it's really hot. And now for your Phoenix 5-day forecast. Tomorrow will be another bright sunny day with a high of 95 degrees and a low of 71. The rest of the week will be more cloudy with daily temperatures holding steady in the 90s and lows in the 70s. Since the weather is looking clear, make sure to take advantage of events on campus to connect with friends. Now back to you in the studio.
Chloe Franklin with your Phoenix 5-day. Thank you so much. And after the break, a local expert's take on dangerous water shortages. We'll be right back.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
Open road, here comes the Heffley family.
Whether it's a short trip or a long haul.
Estimated time, 47 hours.
They will beg.
You're hungry? I'm happy to provide.
They will plead.
Deep fried butter on a stick.
But whatever you do, don't wimp out.
Now you're talking?
Make them buckle up.
He can't hurt.
Remember, safety first. Cheese curls second.
Are you orange?
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching Elon Local News.
Some sustainability initiatives are being reinstated under Elon's Normal Plus operations. According to Assistant Director for Sustainability for Education and Outreach, Kelly Harrer, students can now use the reusable green-to-go boxes in dining halls, and post-consumer composting is resuming. Harrer says there are less orange compost bins around campus to reduce the contamination from trash. If an orange bin becomes too contaminated, it has to go to a landfill. Harrer says, also, in spite of pausing consuming during the pandemic, Elon's total carbon emissions were 16.7% lower during the pandemic than in 2008, mostly due to decreased travel and students on campus. If students are interested in volunteering with the department, they can email sustainability@elon.edu.
The U.S. is declaring the first water shortage on the Colorado River following news that this July was the hottest month in recorded human history. While the river is over 2,000 miles away from Elon, it still has the potential to affect water systems in North Carolina. State Director for Environment North Carolina, Drew Ball, says he is not surprised by the news.
This past July was the hottest July on record. So, you know, it's no coincidence that the first time the Colorado has experienced a drought of this level, at the same time we've had the highest global temperature for July. It links up. It's scary. It's undeniable. And so we need to get to solutions. We recognize the problems. It's time for solutions.
For more on this story, pick up a copy of this week's Pendulum or visit elonnewsnetwork.com.
Well, that's all the news that we have for you this evening. Thanks so much for joining us.
For all the news you need to know while we're not on the air, head over to our website, elonnewsnetwork.com.
And be sure to follow us on social media at Elon News Network.
Before we go, here's a look back at this weekend when we welcomed Elon's historic freshman class.
Have a great week, Elon.
Oh my God!
Oh, that's perfect. You're right there. Perfect.